All right, everyone. We're super excited to do this webinar today. Today, we have the privilege of speaking with Elon Reshef, the co-founder and head of product CPO at Gong. And I'm super excited about this because throughout the years, we've worked with a lot of organizations at Closed. And we often find that the product org kind of sits in the background and may or may not be engaged. But Gong has done an awesome job and been one of the best thought leaders we've ever seen in terms of how do you use win-loss to amplify your product strategy. So we're super excited to jump into this. Elon, very excited to have you. Thanks for joining us. Let's start chatting.
Thanks for inviting me. Glad to be here.
Yeah. So I'm super interested, selfishly, of hearing about Gong and how you guys got this started, because this is an awesome product. You've had kind of exponential growth right out of the gate. It's been a super successful startup story. How did this company come to be, and what was kind of the founding story?
Yeah, it's always kind of fun to look backwards. So it was about first employee came really like 9 years ago. So it's been, of course, more than that. But when Amit and I met, so Amit is my co-founder and CEO. Again, my name is Elon, one of the founders and chief product officer, and we met back 9 years and change ago. I was in sabbatical. I had sold my previous company, so I had lived with free time. Amit was just completed his work as the CEO of a BI company called Sisense, which is still around. And he had this notion of, hey, he had a quarter, nothing was working. And it was like, why are things not working? The CRM all looks fine. And he personally basically listened to like numerous calls, and then eventually found all those like patterns, and then he could execute on them and fix those. But then he came to the realization, well, first of all, he's not, because the CEO is not going to do this, but nobody wants to listen to hundreds of calls, right? So the idea was, what if we can build an AI that could replace the need for people to sort of put data into CRM, which they don't do anyway, and help you kind of understand what's going on in your organization, help people drive more productivity, these kind of things. And when we met, I was on sabbatical. It was 2015. I had time. I went to literally to university courses about deep learning, which was the beginning of what is now called AI. I literally remember buying NVIDIA stock at the time. It was, I don't know, $2 or whatever, just because I was seeing like where this is going. And then it was like, could we automate it? I'm like, yes, we can't automate everything right now. Again, 2015, but the world is going to get there. So let's start. And like, we didn't know GPT is going to come. We didn't know it's going to be called LLM, but we knew things are going to become better. So when we started, we had to build our own transcription engine. It had like 30% word error rate, which means 3 out of 10 words don't even make sense. Nowadays, it's like almost perfect. So it's been an interesting evolution from how AI can automate, streamline how revenue organizations work.
I love it. It's almost like, I feel a similar kind of story here at Closed is like, if you can capture the data, if you can actually capture it at scale, the generative AI is coming behind it to help you make sense of it. But at the end of the day, if you can be the key source of where this data is coming from, the rest of technology is moving so that your product's going to become more and more valuable over time.
For now, for sure. I mean, there's trillions of dollars being put into AI, and I think every company should try to figure out how to leverage these trillions of dollars to its benefit. I would not be building an LLM, at this stage, because there's like almost so many others doing it. But if I could build a product that would become better as LLMs become bigger, better, cheaper, whatever, it's like, again, we do this, of course. I think it's a good strategy.
I love it. I love it. And part of the strategy is being very customer centric. It's pretty obvious to me, like the whole philosophy of Gong is we need to understand what customers are saying so that we can better align to them and help them. How do you actually execute on that within your product org?
Yeah, I think we've kind of tended to be very extreme in terms of call it customer centricity. I mean, there's all sorts of word for it, like empathy. I mean, honestly, I don't even understand all of those nuances, but I think the key is make sure that kind of product people talk to customers all day long. So Gong, just as being a Gong, all of the customer conversations are recorded. So that gives you a first approximation, meaning you can go to any customer meeting, you can listen to it or ask questions like, what did the customer say? Or you get tags and snippets and whatnot. But I don't think there's a replacement to actually go talk to customers. And pre-COVID, it meant a lot of travel. Nowadays, it means a lot of like Zoom or whatever other video calls. And the way we structure our org is we kind of organize them in pods, which I think right now is kind of not as extreme as maybe it was when we started, but PM, UX, and then a bunch of engineers lead and sort of multidisciplinary team. And they kind of own a domain. Say in our case, it could be, hey, this team owns how you do revenue analytics or forecasting, or it is like a summarization. And then that PM always works with a large number of design partners, the customers who care about this feed. They have a pain that we don't solve well, or we don't solve it all, or we haven't solved yet. And then as part of the design partnership program, it's kind of built really, really gradually. So here's a V0.1. Hey, Mr. Customer, because you give us feedback. And if you
Yeah.
do this like iteratively enough, you basically get to a product that, at least a dozen customers like. Now, chances are if you have a dozen customers who like it, many, many more will like it. Obviously, you have to pick them right. They can't all be in the same industry or size or whatnot, but
Right.
that's the key. And then you get tons of feedback, UX feedback, functionality feedback, understanding feedback, value feedback, data feedback. So right now I have more than 20 PMs in my team, and each one works with probably a dozen-ish customers. So at any point in time, Gong is going to have hundreds, literally, of design partners who are kind of
That's
testing
awesome.
out different features.
That's awesome. And it gives you so much more confidence, right? You can have an idea as of like where you need to take the product and a hypothesis, and then getting the confirmation from the customers and kind of that sometimes major course correction, a lot of times just minor course corrections and refinement makes your product development so much more efficient.
Exactly. We measure ourselves on a lot on like things like NPS, do customers like us, and of course, business metrics, kind of expansion, retention, sort of like. But in the end of the day, if you want to get, I mean, you can't affect NPS by waving your hand, right? Eventually, it's how you build a product the customers like, and the first step is, make sure a few customers like it before everybody likes it. And
Yeah.
if you don't go through this like very intimate customer emotion, it's going to be very hard for people to really, really love it. They might be okay with it if you just develop it in a vacuum. But to get it to nail it, you got to work with specific customers. In my mind,
Love it.
at least.
Yeah.
Maybe there's
Yeah.
other
I
ways.
totally agree. It's like people think product market fit is just some magic wand you run over and you just figured something out in a closet one day. But what it is it's this like constant iteration to get better and better at delivering for customers.
Exactly. And it's kind of funny because in Gong is when Forrester did their like conversation intelligence, what they call it, wave. Gong was the only kind of top right leader, which is pretty peculiar. Usually you have multiple ones. And if you sort of look at the features, it's not like there's one feature that Gong has that others don't. I mean, we do have maybe 2 or 3 capabilities that are like completely unique, but also it's like how those features get kind of, how do they work together? How do they drive outcomes? How do they kind of interweave? And it's just the lump sum. Everybody can record calls. I mean, that's not like there's nothing interesting in just recording calls.
Yeah.
Or
No,
running an
it's
LLM to say summarize this call. Anybody can do that from nowadays. But how do you kind of bring the value? How do you kind of make like people consume the data? How do you make them coach in the data, and et cetera, et cetera. So.
yeah, I love it. I love it. So often when we do what we do, we go interview buyers and we hear them come back and they say, hey, you're missing this feature or functionality. And sometimes product teams think, okay, we went and built that, and why isn't our win rate changing? And you and you come back and you say, well, did you actually build it all the way to what the customers mean? Like, it doesn't just mean you have it and you can show it in a demo. It means it actually works the way that customers
Exactly.
need it to work to get them that value. So rewind it almost a year ago, first time I met you. We had just started working with Gong, and I was super excited when Shane, your CRO, talked to me about how interested you guys were in the product org with this. And I thought it was awesome. And I also thought it was interesting because you have all the Gong data and then the win-loss data on top of that. And sometimes people think, I hear product marketing managers and product managers oftentimes talk about how valuable Gong is to helping them really try to get that first layer of empathy like you talked about. What role does win-loss play when you think of this philosophy around being customer centric?
Yeah, so obviously I'm a big believer in win-loss analysis. I think there isn't one truth around everything. So in Gong we capture the conversation with the customer. So say we won with a deal with a customer, I can always go to Gong and say, hey, what were the reasons we lost or we won, of course, in this case. So AI is going to say, hey, you had this, but this is sort of what is being said to Gong. It's not like what did we not know? about the
Yeah.
customer? What was in their customer mind between meetings or between sharing with us information, or how do they reflect on it? So in my mind, a win-loss program is something that is, first of all, it's a program. Who do you talk with? What questions do you ask? How do you collect information? But also get another perspective that is as interesting. I don't want to say this one is the true one or that one is the true one, but you kind of compare the angles. So maybe in many customers, you're going to hear a certain competitor come up, but then the customer is going to say, well, many customers, maybe we didn't lose any deal to them, or maybe the customer is going to be like, yes, they came up in a meeting, but we never, I don't know, we never considered them seriously or whatever the thing is. So getting that perspective that is from the buyers, what was in your mind when you started the process? What were your considerations? Reflect on the process. What did we do well? It's also not just the product. Did you like the salesperson, right? Did we run the process well? Did we show up well? All of these things eventually go back, and then how can we optimize our operations? Operations could be product features, could be go-to-market strategy, could be, how we do many, many things. Eventually, it's, increase win rates, increase retention, and many other things, but it's
Yeah.
just building a better product. Product is like the end-to-end product. It's product and the service, of course.
I love it. I love it. It's like one way that I describe this is like B2B sales in particular is like a poker game where you don't ever have to show your cards. So what Gong is showing you is like the interactions and kind of what's happening at the table. And that can be really telling of what is going on and what led to the outcome. What you get with win-loss is what was actually happening behind the curtain with the organization. And your point is so spot on. Sometimes it's really one of the really interesting things to me is oftentimes product orgs or people in the organization, marketing, whoever, they'll kind of paint sales in a bad picture of like, they're putting these reasons of why we won and lost in the CRM that are not accurate. And it's actually not fair to the sales team, because you can go look at and use a platform like Gong and say, well, they never actually mentioned this in the call. This never actually came up. Or we never had any idea through all of our sales interactions that the actual core decision maker was going to be procurement or finance or somebody like that. And they came in over the top and killed the deal. And so it's really, really valuable to get that. I love what you're talking about, like the two sides of the truth so that you can really get to an answer.
Exactly. And obviously people build orgs in a different way, but I've never believed that, the product organization in a software company. I don't know about the consumer packaged good. I've never worked in a consumer packaged good company, but at least in a software company, I never believed that a product company is about building the product, right? It's one thing that the product managers or the product organization are responsible for, shipping a product, but in the end, the product is product parts plus services. And what's
Yeah.
the end-to-end, not just customer experience, also the seller experience? What is the end-to-end thing? And then I can tell you right now, based on the win-loss analysis that we kind of do together, that are like certain things that customer mentions consistently is like, this is a major reason why we picked Gong. And it's kind of
Yeah.
very hard. They might have mentioned it even to the salesperson, because it came up. They were like, "Oh, this looks good," but then they were saying, "Oh, one example is like we recently launched an AI-powered playbook. Like as part of your deal review, it's like there's a medic built in. It's like, and people are like, oh, this is such a game changer for me. And of course, we built it. We know people use it. We know people like it. We measure I don't know what it is, like engagement, activity, usage, all of these kind of leading indicators. But in a win-loss analysis program, you actually hear buying saying, this was a big part of my buying criteria, because I understand
Yeah.
how this saves time. I understand how this holds people accountable. I don't think you can get this from like just listening to the demo, because they're gonna be
Yeah.
like, oh, that's awesome. Let's move on.
Yeah, totally. Totally. And all of us who have ever been in a buying cycle internally know what those internal conversations feel like, where you actually have someone who comes with that insight, like, wait, if I can actually have Medic built right in and it's pulling from the calls and it's filling it out and helping me get super smart and intelligent, that saves me as a sales leader. It saves my team, it saves everybody else time. It makes us more intelligent. And they also don't really want to say that on the call with you, because they still are kind of positioning themselves in a negotiation. So they don't want to tell
Exactly.
you how much you're wowing them on the wins.
Exactly. And then, you meet them in like, it's like taking a photo with a flash, right? You meet them at a certain point, and maybe 2 weeks later to see a competitor, and 3 weeks later to do something else. And then in hindsight, when they do the evaluation, it's like, oh, this is the thing that pop up. They never had even the chance to share with us what went in those 2, 3 weeks, because, in all fairness, right? The salesperson got the deal. They don't shouldn't care so much like what was the 5 reasons along the way why they got the deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think this is where win-loss comes in very handy.
Yeah, totally, totally. So here's a really cool thing that you all are doing that I think is awesome, right? You have your product managers that are talking to customers and doing win-loss, and then you also use closed as a third party to help do other interviews. How do you compare those interviews and the approach to them? Do you take the same kind of interview guide approach? We're going to approach these the same way, or do you allow the product managers to kind of run and customize towards their specific needs? What's kind of the approach, and what do you get that's different from those two sides of the coin?
Yeah, first of all, a plug for you all. I think you're doing a good job in the interviews. I'm not looking for my product
Yeah,
managers to do something that's completely different. Of course, they tend to be more knowledgeable in certain areas, so they
yeah,
can't resist the temptation. I'm a product manager for the new sales engagement product. I cannot not ask you, did you look at this product? I mean,
yeah,
this is human nature, and I expect that to be somewhat slanted. I think they're probably also very obviously being passionate about Gong. They're gonna be like, oh yeah, let me kind of take your feedback to the customer success and try to do something about it like really, really quickly, because that's they're an employee of Gong. But otherwise, I feel it's kind of similar. I always try to
yeah,
look at the top, sort of like when I read those, kind of who's doing the interview. It's not always obvious, which kind of tells that they're not radically different.
yeah. I love it. I love it. And I think that that's actually a super one of the nuances is if you put yourself in the shoes of the buyer, the fact that Gong would have their product team come and talk to me shows an investment and a care about my feedback and makes me super excited to hear. Similarly, the fact that Gong would say, look, I want to make this comfortable for you, and I'm going to use a third party so you can be as transparent as you want to be, also it sends a great message. And I think that sometimes we see clients that are like, I want to do them ourselves because of we know the product really well, we know our business really well, and we're going to be able to those second and third and fourth layer questions we might have a better sense of, and totally agree with that strategy, and it makes a ton of sense. And sometimes our customers say, I just want you to be the third party because I want it to be as comfortable. So I love that you guys think about it in both ways. It's not an either or, it's a and within your organization, which I think is really a powerful approach.
I think the value mix is a little bit different when you do it with a third party, which is usually how it's being done. I think is like based on at least my life
Yeah.
experience. This is how I've done it in the past. There's always like, hey, people tend to be more transparent. Also, like professional people do it because they've been like have a methodology around what questions do you ask. It's usually it's a bit cleaner in terms of what data do you get, and then you can probe maybe a little bit more. You're better at probing. So I think in terms of the data collection aspect, it's higher value, I think, on average. I think product managers, and we also do PMMs, product marketing managers. So
Yeah.
I think the value in this is also exposing these people to, sometimes it's the sad truth of customer not buying. Oh, we didn't see value in this. It was the wrong time, or lost to a competitor. It's like because we didn't know that you could do this or whatever the thing is. So I think that's valuable. And I think just like getting it directly into their mind that they've at least spoken to 5, 6, 3, however many customers that you won or lost. I think it's invaluable information for them.
Yeah.
And it's kind of you're in the moment, you're in the call. It's different than reading or even listening afterwards to an interview, let alone just reading the summary. So I think there's tons of value for the people themselves.
Yeah. It builds such connection. And one of the things that I think it does is it gives the product team, the product marketing managers, a lot more credibility within the org because that empathy is built so that when they go talk to the sales team or when they go talk to other folks, they are coming from a place of not just like I read over this and I know it. It's like I had to be engaged in a conversation, and I've done enough of these to where I'm feeling like I really have a sense of it, because it's hard to put like a metric on it, but that like emotional connection to the buyer and the customer, it just gives you a different level of empathy so that you can build the right stuff.
For sure, for sure. I mean, if an organization doesn't have this direct connection between its like product managers or product marketing manager with a customer, it's kind of very hard to go back to the organization and say customers want X if you don't have that in a B2B organization, right? B2C, it might be a numbers game, 50 people
Yeah.
click on this, let's do that. But in a B2B organization, you have to sort of look in the eye of a salesperson or who's going to be like, a customer asked me for X, And if you haven't like spoken with enough customer, and you can say, hey, yes, he asked for S, that person asked for X, but what most customers mean by that is Y. And you can't do this by reading. You have to do this
Yeah.
by actual engagement with customers.
Yeah, totally. And it gives so much credence internally too. Why is our roadmap what it is? Are the things that we're building what they are? It's not like we're doing this in a vacuum. It's we're getting your feedback, sales team, but we're also talking to all these customers and making sure that we're doing it the right way. Question for you. So you've done this. You're rewind to the first time you ever thought about doing any type of win-loss program with a product bend on it. What advice? Because a lot of product folks that we deal with, they haven't really been as involved. It's never been as cross-functional as I think. Gong has been exceptional at this relative to many of our customers. Cross-functional stakeholders at the senior levels of the org sharing this feedback, making sure that they're getting the most and driving optimization across the org. Some of our clients, it's more of a siloed approach. It's the marketing team doing it. Maybe the sales team is involved. The product team's not. What advice would you give to other product leaders that are thinking about doing win-loss and like kind of your starter kit from your perspective?
Yeah, it's a good question. By the way, I would have done it years ago if I kind of had like it was like you said, it was a little bit siloed. And it was kind of like, hey, product marketing is going to do it, but we had lots of like leadership changes. It was always like next year, and I just never started it. I probably would have, in hindsight, like just took on it, but it wasn't like officially in my court. But I would probably say two things. First of all, like every other change management thing in any company, just do some sort of a pilot, right? Just kick it off, try it out with 1 p.m., 2 p.m.s, never roll it out to 10 p.m.s before you've done it 1 and 2. Pick a handful of customers. Or by the way, of course, if you use like closed or, a third-party concept, then it's even easier. Just kick it off and see how it goes, right? So this is one thing. I would probably say another piece is figuring out how to widespread this. So it's not like, hey, the PMM has read this and they write this like one-page report that everybody glances over and just moves on. Which happens in organizations, right? Because you mentioned the trust issue, but it's also like the more you kind of consolidate data, it becomes like high-level thematic input. It's like it's good, but it's like you get so much of that thematic input all the time. So I would even say, how do you kind of widespread the actual win-loss? In our case, I kind of mentioned this before. It's like, hey, we round robin to different PMs and PMM. That's already a start. I personally, maybe that's another one, right? As a leader, are you actually personally committed, or are you doing it as just like because you think other people should do it? I'm probably the only product leader who reads every single win-loss analysis. I joke with my team, my kind of executive team, that this is better than fiction. I read it like it's got all of the elements of good fictions. Like there's protagonist, there's antagonist, there's a storyline, there's a hopefully happy ending, sometimes sad ending. So it's like I would read this before I go to sleep because it's like fun to read. I mean, it's excitement. Do I win? I wish you hadn't put like win-loss at the top, because then you'd be like also like suspense. So you took out the suspense element. But but seriously, I kind of read every one of them. I tag other people. So I would tag my head of support and the product manager this, and sometimes it's like I would tag Shane, our CRO, or other people. We're like, hey, did you notice this? Because the reasons we win and loss is not product. It's like product is 50%, salespersonship is probably other 50%. Sometimes it's like, oh, we didn't know about this thing. It's like could be a marketing thing. So just I think widespreading it within the organization makes it valuable for more people, makes it kind of more people are aware of it, and then eventually drive more value to the organization. And I think also for the people who are running the program, whether they're interviewing or just reading, it's obviously kind of more valuable if they know that other people care versus, I'm just reading those 10 and sort of creating this executive summary that people are going to glance over again. So it's kind of fun.
The viral sharing, I think, is so valuable. It's a valuable part of Gong. It's a valuable part of Close. And that point around giving the head of support, the head of sales, the sales rep themselves, whoever is involved that would benefit from seeing that is huge. Because we see this, right? We're doing hundreds, thousands of interviews every month, right? And one of the interesting things that happens is in all the years that we've done this, we're almost 8 years into it. I don't know if we've ever had a single interview where it was one sole reason why you won or lost the deal. It's always nuanced. And to your point, it's not just product. or it's not just sales and it's not just marketing. And sometimes there will be good on a win, there will be good things and still areas to improve. And on a loss, there will be reasons why you lost, but still areas where you did well. And the nuance of that and making sure that the nuances are shared broadly across the org makes everybody smarter and sharper and better at their jobs. So super, super powerful and impactful way that you guys are doing it. I love it.
And it's always more painful and motivating to act based on some customer statement, right? It's like, you could go to your head of whatever implementation, say, what do you think about your implementation times? Oh, I think they're fine, KPIs are good, whatever. And then you tag them in one conversation where a customer might say, I don't know, implementation is too slow, or I'm waiting too much, or whatever the thing is. I'm not like hypothetical example in our case, but and then they're like, oh shit, I gotta fix it. Now it's not coming from an opinion, it's coming from a customer complaining, and like we're human beings, right? We all want to make our customers successful, so it makes a dent, no doubt.
Yeah, totally. So we're pushing up on time. I've got one question for you that I just came up with on the fly. This is like a lot like win-loss interviews, but it's something that I'm super intrigued about asking you about, because before we even started this call, we talked about how crazy the world has been the last couple of years in the tech space and everything else, but things are starting to kind of pick back up and move really fast. And there's a lot of optimism that I see across a lot of our clients around the future. When you think about Gong and you think about the space that you're operating in, what are some of the things that you are most excited about the future of the company, the future of your roadmap, the future of this space?
Yeah, I think it's one of the most, if not the most exciting spaces right now for me. But I think in general, it's sort of like AI is, just transformed the world, is transforming the world. I think the infrastructure layer is, I mean, I want to say solved. I want to say like NVIDIA is killing it, of course. And then there's the layer of like LLM builders. And it's like they're doing a phenomenal job, but it's like everybody's going to figure out what it is, at least based on what it looks right now. And sort of building a sort of an AI-centric application layer is something that, other than maybe Gong and maybe a couple of others, not too many companies figure it out. I just sticking I don't know, some Gen AI feature somewhere. And I think it's not for us, since we mostly deliver to revenue organization or customer first facing organizations, is how can we transform the life or the working life of those kind of sellers, managers, leaders, enablement people, whatnot, using AI in a gradual enterprise fashion. So it's not just like, hey, take AI, it's going to replace all of your people, which doesn't happen. But like, how can we gradually take off all of the drudgery? So how can we, you mentioned roadmap, how can we automatically fill form fields in for everybody so they don't need to do this anymore? How can we automatically coach them so they become better? How can we drive even the right next steps or the right motions in the organization, help people along the way, gradually taking more time, making people more efficient, and in a trustable way, and in a way that keeps the organization at the helm versus AI do something, who knows how that happens. So it's super exciting. I'm sure that the transition is happening. It's we're currently, I want to say the leader, but certainly one of the leaders in this space. But the hope is this is going to be transformational, and then within a few years, we're all going to look back at how people were selling, and we're going to be laughing in just like we can't believe we used to take notes. We can't believe we used to fill CRM fields all
fill
day
out
long.
forms. I can't
exactly.
believe that I used to do a 30-minute phone call and then take 30 minutes taking notes about the phone call and filling in the CRM.
Exactly. And having those conversations with my managers, like, is the stage of the opportunity this? Did they actually say that? All of this like fact finding and information sharing. And I don't remember. I had to look like 30 minutes to understand what do I need to do with account X because I have been on the 3-day leave or whatever. So
yeah,
it's transformational, no doubt.
It totally is. It's like I rewind in my career. 10 years ago, I was working for Bain & Company doing commercial excellence, Salesforce effectiveness. And so much of it was like, how much of your rep's time is spent not selling to customers? How much of it is spent on clerical stuff? And it was like, if you could just change that percentage by knock out 20% of it, your revenue pops by more than 20% because those are their most valuable activities. And so like when I think of this stuff, right? Like the idea of me as a seller, I don't have to go back into Salesforce and disposition a bunch of fields. And by the way, I'm probably dispositioning them wrong because I'm probably remembering them wrong. Or I'm just doing the first drop down because it's the easiest one and all of that stuff. And the simplification of the life of the seller so that they can focus on the things that will actually move the needle. And at the end of the day, you talk about transforming their lives. It's like, as a seller, if you help me hit my number, I love you.
Exactly.
Right.
And once a year they do territory replanning, right? So now you got 100 accounts you've never seen before. Now you're a whole ineffective for a whole quarter because you're just like ramping up on those accounts. But then this is a thing in the past. You can even probably get most of it in Gong today. Just go and say, hey, what did the account care about? Blah, blah, blah. And you just get it in your face. So I like this is a totally different like
Not,
profession. So
yeah, not starting from scratch. Love it. Love it. Elon, this has been so awesome. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. Obviously, I know you guys are super busy and working on some really cool cutting edge stuff. So thanks for taking the time to chat with us, and appreciate it.
thanks for inviting me. I'm a big fan of the win-loss programs. So I'm really happy to share.
Awesome. Okay. Good luck, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We'll have a good one.